a call to spiritual awareness, recognizing the hidden frequencies of contamination. Have you ever experienced that immediate, internal alarm bell when meeting someone new, or even being around someone you thought you knew? It's a moment of inexplicable heaviness, a strange twist in your gut, or a sudden lack of peace that blankets the entire interaction. This feeling isn't mere nervousness or social awkwardness. It's a profound spiritual event. It's your spirit, the deepest, most connected part of you, registering a frequency that is not aligned with divine light, not pure, and not safe for your destiny. You were given this intuition for a reason. That unsettling feeling, chosen one, was a critical warning sign sent directly from the higher realms. It was heaven giving you a coded message, an urgent spiritual telegram that read, "Danger present. This person is carrying an unseen contamination. Proceed with caution." God, in His infinite love, never intends for His children to wander blindly into ambushes. Today, we're going to unpack these spiritual signals, revealing the exact language God uses to alert you, and what your necessary next steps are for protection and clarity. I urge you to take a moment and genuinely pause and breathe. What you are about to receive isn't just a collection of insightful observations or a good lecture. It is a powerful revelation designed to sharpen your senses and fortify your spiritual boundaries. Long before any visible threat manifests in your life, before a word is spoken or an action is taken, the heavenly realm detects the danger. When a person harbors destructive, lower energies, your God-attuned spirit registers that dissonance first, bypassing your rational mind and fleeting emotions. That sudden, overwhelming feeling of discomfort you felt around specific individuals, that unprovoked drop in your mood, or the strange, inexplicable urge to simply retreat and leave the situation, that wasn't unfounded anxiety. It was your spiritual discernment waking up forcefully. That was the Lord whispering to the core of your being, "Be attentive. Everything is not as benign as it appears." As we move through this message, a powerful shift will occur within your soul, giving you eyes to see what has been hidden. You are about to be armed with the knowledge of the precise signs God employs to warn His chosen ones about individuals who present themselves as completely harmless, kind, spiritually supportive, or deeply caring. These people, often unknowingly, carry intentions that actively sabotage your purpose, drain your vitality, or weaken your spiritual conviction. By the time you finish hearing this message, the confusion surrounding past relationships will dissipate completely. You will finally understand the genuine reason why certain close friendships felt like they imploded without warning, why specific relationships left you feeling completely depleted, and why a distinct group of people seemed to always sense danger even when you logically couldn't identify a threat. That internal tension wasn't paralyzing fear, it was divine protection activating. God is honing your discernment today, ensuring you never again confuse a contaminated presence for an honest, good person, regardless of how expertly crafted their illusion might be. Before we proceed deeper into this revelation, it's essential to anchor yourself spiritually to this moment and the truth it carries. If these words are resonating deeply with you, if you feel that quiet but firm conviction in your chest that God is about to expose something vital for your journey, take a moment to engage with this message. Like this video to affirm, "I choose unwavering clarity over debilitating confusion." Subscribe to keep your spirit connected to the guidance designed specifically for your divine path. Then, take a moment and comment 99 below. This number symbolizes the biblical truth of the shepherd leaving the 99 to actively seek and rescue the one who is in peril. If you are that one soul feeling threatened or lost, know this: heaven is actively coming for you right now. Let the powerful unveiling of truth begin, for your destiny depends on what you learn next. Chosen one, remember that your most challenging battles are rarely the large, external crises visible to the world. They are the subtle, internal tug-of-wars happening within your own soul. and the very first warning God delivers is never a flash of lightning or a loud pronouncement. It arrives as a gentle but unmistakable shift in your spirit's atmosphere, a quiet tremor across the landscape of your internal peace, a signal only you can detect. Before a person's true motivations are fully exposed, before their carefully constructed mask begins to slip, and before their actions completely betray their honeyed words, your spirit receives the initial signal, decoding what your rational mind hasn't even noticed. This warning begins with something as delicate as a feeling, yet carries the authority of a prophecy. You find yourself near this person, and inexplicably, your chest tightens, your breathing grows shallow, and the peace that was just there begins to shrink, as if the oxygen of the room is being silently depleted. Nothing overtly threatening has taken place. No harsh words have been exchanged. No one has raised their voice. Yet, something deep within your intuition screams, remain vigilant. Do not let your guard down here. This is not an accident. It is not generalized anxiety. It is not a sign of overthinking. This is divine technology, the spiritual radar system God purposefully integrated into every soul He has chosen. When a person carries influence that is lower or darker, your spirit immediately recognizes the negative frequency before your emotions can even register the true impact. Their presence often feels like static interference in a crystal, clear communication channel. Their energy appears to constantly pull your light downwards rather than offer any genuine upliftment. Their spiritual aura feels uncomfortably heavy, distorted, and profoundly misaligned with the purity of yours. You might notice your core tensing, your shoulders tightening, or your mind becoming unusually hyper, alert, almost as if your spirit is bracing for a blow your physical eyes cannot yet perceive. Understand this clearly, chosen one. This immediate physical reaction is God protecting you in real time. Your spirit, connected intimately to the truth of heaven, detects the concealed motives, the deeply buried resentments, the spiritual contamination, and the unspoken hostility. Because the Lord holds your calling in such high regard, He refuses to allow you to walk into danger unprepared. He allows you to feel what you cannot yet fully articulate or understand. That unsettling tension, the abrupt emotional change, the deep, compelling desire to step back, to physically exit the space, to end the conversation, or to emotionally withdraw, these aren't simply random quirks of personality. They are warnings cleverly disguised as instinct. Yet, countless chosen ones habitually dismiss these critical alerts. They hastily conclude that they are being overly sensitive, judgmental, or simply unfair in their assessment. They often silence their spirit's voice for the sake of protecting another person's ego or feelings. They override clear divine signals because they fear appearing rude, paranoid, or uncharitable. But true discernment is not synonymous with judgment. Discernment is spiritual survival. It is God's active, continuous shielding of you from debilitating emotional traps, spiritual ambushes, and carefully planned assignments hiding behind a polite facade or a friendly smile. Pay extremely close attention, because here is a core truth many never fully grasp. The destructive force always makes its first move in silence. It doesn't arrive heralded by massive conflict or public exposure. It arrives simply through presence. If being around someone causes your intrinsic peace to vanish, your energy to drain, and your spirit to instinctively recoil, then heaven is urgently shouting through your nervous system, "Examine this closer. This energy is not derived from me." Your spirit is consistently the primary battlefield that God fortifies when any danger is approaching. It grows restless so that you avoid being reckless. It becomes tense so that you won't fall into misplaced trust. It becomes highly alert so that you are not vulnerable. What you perceive as mere discomfort is, in fact, revelation beginning to unfold and activate within you. Chosen one, the moment you cease to ignore this inner spiritual unease, the very instant you begin to honor what your spirit feels over what people are saying or doing, everything in your life will dramatically shift. You will begin to see people with startling clarity. You will skillfully evade traps before they even have a chance to close. You will recognize the wolves among the sheep before they can even fully deploy their disguise. You will stop mistaking a shallow, counterfeit peace for a genuine spiritual connection. You will step into a potent level of spiritual authority where nothing is capable of catching you off guard ever again. But here is where the truth becomes even more profound and, for some, more unsettling. Once you fully acknowledge the initial internal warning, God begins to reveal even more visible and undeniable signs that are far more disruptive. And the sign that follows, chosen one, is the one that directly exposes the heart of those who simply cannot bear the light you carry. Are you fully prepared to handle the intensity of this next revelation? Now is the time to see the deeper cracks in the mask. Spiritual darkness has the capacity to imitate many things: gentleness, humility, generosity, and even fervent support. However, it can never maintain the illusion for long. Inevitably, the facade cracks. The truth always leaks out through the most minor expression, the slightest reaction, the subtle, forced smile that was never truly heartfelt. People carrying that lower energy cannot hide their authentic response to your growth, your spiritual light, or your increasing divine assignment. This is because the light within you actively irritates the darkness they host. Your elevation, your blessing, and your progress expose the truth they are trying desperately to bury, and that initial, telltale fracture in their disguise is almost always envy. At first, their behavior seems perfectly normal. They praise your achievements, they laugh along with you, they appear to say all the right, supportive things, yet their spirit stubbornly refuses to align with their words. Their voice may rise in apparent praise, yet their energy feels like it's sinking. Their tone may soften with encouragement, yet their eyes harbor a subtle, sharp hardening. Their supportive words sound convincing, but a silent voice in your soul whispers, "This isn't real. This is contaminated. Watch them closely." You will start to observe clear, unmistakable patterns that are impossible to rationally explain away. They are always intensely present the moment you experience a stumble or setback, but they become mysteriously absent the moment you achieve a victory. They respond instantly to any bad news or struggle in your life, but fall eerily silent the moment God pours a blessing onto your path. They make sarcastic jokes about your future and your dreams that carry a sting deeper than any amusement. They claim to be proud, yet their gaze flickers with a potent, visible resentment they simply cannot conceal. You can feel the spiritual temperature drop. You can feel the atmosphere around them constrict. And for the first time, you realize their connection to you was never based on genuine, unconditional love. It was rooted in comfort and control. They preferred you when your light was dimmer. They liked you better when you were openly struggling. They were most comfortable when your victories were not a threat to their own self-image or ego. This is because the moment a chosen one truly begins to rise and operate in their power, every hidden heart around them is instantly and fully revealed. Envy is not just a destructive emotion. It is an entry point, a spiritual doorway, a genuine crack in the soul through which harmful influences can quietly slip in. When someone harbors deep envy toward a chosen one, they actively open themselves up to thoughts that are not genuinely their own. These thoughts include deep irritation at your blessings, bitter resentment toward your growth, compulsive and toxic comparisons, silent, destructive prayers for your downfall, and small, dark wishes that your good fortune would somehow evaporate. They often don't realize it, but their heart quickly becomes a hostile playground for dark whispers. Soon, they begin to act on destructive impulses they truly cannot explain or understand. You share a major victory, and they immediately change the topic of conversation. You express deep gratitude to God, and they quickly minimize the blessing. You step into a new level of favor, and they suddenly require significant emotional distance. You shine just a little brighter, and something deep within them grows restless, agitated, and uncomfortable. This is not happenstance. This is spiritual exposure. The spirit operating within them cannot authentically celebrate what God is doing through your life. It cannot truly honor the calling it secretly fears. It cannot genuinely clap for the very person it was subtly assigned to undermine and defeat. Every single time God elevates you to a new level, the darkness housed within them panics, because your blessing fundamentally threatens their sense of control, their comfortable illusions, their ego, and their comfortable sense of superiority. And here is a difficult truth many chosen ones resist confronting. Some people weren't ultimately bothered by you. They were profoundly bothered by your anointing and your calling. Some didn't truly envy your life circumstances. They envied the favor of God upon you. Some weren't genuinely threatened by who you are now, but they were terrified by the person you are clearly becoming. Pay relentless attention to how people genuinely react when God actively moves in your life. Miracles have a way of exposing true intentions. Breakthroughs reveal authentic loyalties. Favor is the mechanism that unmasks hidden motives. A heart that is truly aligned with heaven sincerely rejoices when God elevates another person. But a heart influenced by lower darkness tightens, withdraws, or harbors a quiet, simmering resentment for a blessing they cannot control or replicate. If you consistently notice someone's entire energy shift every single time God lifts you higher, do not try to explain it away with excuses. Do not minimize it. Do not attempt to spiritualize it into something gentle. That significant shift is not random. It is the moment of unveiling. It is heaven speaking. Now you see them exactly as they are. Now you finally grasp why your spirit never, ever felt truly safe. Because envy is never just a simple emotion. It is a seed. It is a signal. It is a form of spiritual contamination waiting for the right moment to grow. And when that poisonous seed takes root, something far more sinister begins to form, a subtle, calculated resistance against your God-given destiny. This resistance is never loud, never openly dramatic, and never obvious. It is quiet, strategically deployed, and often disguised as genuine concern, helpful advice, or deep care. But it is meticulously designed to slow your momentum, erode your confidence, and hold you back from your promise. Chosen one, in the upcoming stages of this spiritual revelation, you will fully learn how this seemingly harmless resistance evolves into something far more profoundly unsettling, something that doesn't just affect your temporary emotions, but directly targets your core spiritual strength itself. Are you ready to witness the next layer of the mask peel away, revealing the true intention? Chosen one, there is a distinct type of person whose mere presence feels like a slow, persistent leak in your soul. They don't engage in shouting or aggressive attacks. They don't expose themselves through open hostility. No, their influence is much quieter, far subtler, and deeply corrosive. They actively drain you, not through obvious conflict, but through what feels like a normal, everyday connection. The moment you manage to pull away from their sphere of influence, you feel the difference instantly. Your spirit feels dramatically dimmer. Your mind feels strangely heavier. Your faith is often left inexplicably shaken. These are not just routine, mundane interactions. These are spiritual transactions, and what they quietly extract from you is infinitely more valuable than anything they could ever offer in return. People influenced by lower, negative energies often function as spiritual parasites. They feed on the most sacred elements within you, your deep empathy, your patience, your hope, your vital strength, and your sincere desire to help. They expertly identify your compassion as the most effective entry point. Once they have gained access, they begin a process of pulling from you, little by little, until you can no longer recognize your own emotional and spiritual patterns. You start to ask yourself profound, alarming questions. Why do I feel completely exhausted after simply talking to this person? Why do I feel guilt even when I did nothing wrong? Why does my peace disappear the moment they speak to me? These questions are critical spiritual red flags, and they never appear by accident. Every conversation with them leaves an unwanted residue. It clings to your mind like a thick fog. You feel perpetually drained, as if your energy is being systematically siphoned away. You feel deeply confused, as if your clarity has been deliberately scrambled. You feel overwhelmed by guilt, as if all their problems have been quietly shifted onto your own shoulders. And most damagingly, you feel spiritually disconnected, as though the conversation erected a wall between you and God, instead of drawing you closer to Him. This is not a sign of emotional sensitivity. This is spiritual warfare disguised as normal dialogue. The lower influence doesn't always roar with aggression. Sometimes it whispers seductively. Sometimes it successfully hides inside seemingly innocent interactions that subtly, yet profoundly, alter your mindset and convictions. The enemy knows that if he can effectively weaken your faith, he can cripple your purpose. And if he can cripple your purpose, he can ultimately derail your destiny. Therefore, he utilizes people as tools, not to destroy you in one catastrophic blow, but to slowly, invisibly erode you over time through conversations specifically designed to extinguish the divine fire God placed within your soul. Observe the pattern closely. Your valuable attention becomes their sole nourishment. The more you give, the more aggressively they take. Your compassion transforms into their leverage, expertly twisting your kindness into a relentless obligation. Your spiritual vulnerability becomes their clear pathway. They sense the openness of your heart and immediately aim for the center of it. Their conversation degrades into pure manipulation. They open up about their issues only to draw you in deeper, never with a true desire to heal, grow, or transform, but solely to keep you emotionally chained to their never-ending chaos. Their offered advice becomes carefully planned sabotage. They articulate their doubts as genuine guidance, planting seeds that make you profoundly question your calling, your progress, and your innate worth. Their pretense of concern morphs into control. They pretend to genuinely worry about you, but their concern always comes with harsh conditions, rigid limits, or guilt-inducing statements. You walk into the interaction feeling full, and you emerge completely empty. You walk in with clarity, and you walk out with a clouded mind. You walk in spiritually anchored in God, and you walk out feeling severely shaken. This pattern is one of the most perilous because it feels incredibly subtle, almost harmless, until you suddenly realize that every interaction with this specific person causes your fire for God to dim. Your intrinsic motivation weakens noticeably, your prayer life drops off, your focus scatters wildly, your spirit feels physically exhausted, and without even consciously noticing it, you gradually lose your strong connection with the very source of your ultimate strength. When a person consistently and predictably weakens your connection with God, that person is fundamentally not aligned with heaven's highest agenda for your life. It doesn't matter how soft their voice is, how emotional their personal story may be, how convincing their display of innocence, or how familiar their historical relationship may be with you. And here is the element most chosen ones struggle to accept. Some people are not sent to comfort you. They are explicitly sent to drain you. Some people are not genuinely attached to your heart. They are firmly attached to your anointing. Some people are not authentically drawn to your personality. They are irresistibly drawn to your spiritual light because it feeds what is profoundly missing in their own lives. But God is absolutely faithful. He will never permit this debilitating, draining influence to persist without eventually and clearly exposing the truth. Once you start accurately recognizing the spiritual exhaustion they cause, once you stop confusing their calculated manipulation for genuine vulnerability, once you stop seeing their personal chaos as your assignment, something fundamental inside you begins to break free. Because the very moment you acknowledge this pattern for what it is, heaven immediately shifts you into a deeper, more potent level of discernment, and suddenly you start seeing motives, not mere words. You begin seeing spiritual intentions, not just emotional disguises. You start seeing the destructive influence behind the person, not the person themselves. And chosen one, what you are about to discover next is even more unsettling because those draining conversations are only the first, thin layer of the battle. When the darkness perceives that you are no longer falling for their emotional traps, it aggressively escalates the attack. It then directly targets your peace, your stability, and your sense of safety. Are you ready to observe precisely how the battle intensifies in this next stage of divine revelation? Let's peel back the final layer of the veil. Chosen one, there exists a type of spiritual warfare that does not begin with any clear warning, a logical reason, or a distinct trigger. It commences the very instant your presence enters the room. The moment your strong spiritual light brushes against the darkness dwelling inside someone else, their spirit instantly shifts, even if their conscious mind doesn't fully grasp why. Your anointing disturbs what is unclean. Your purity irritates what is fundamentally corrupted. Your spiritual authority disrupts whatever has been hiding comfortably and silently inside them. And this invisible, potent collision creates a very visible, undeniable reaction. Sudden, irrational conflict. It begins subtly, a bizarre comment, a sharp, unprovoked tone, a misunderstanding that feels entirely forced, unnatural, and almost meticulously rehearsed. You say something perfectly innocent, and they immediately twist it into a deep offense. You attempt to help, and they instantly accuse you of causing harm. You walk into the interaction carrying peace, and they immediately confront you with a surprising hostility that defies all logical explanation. It's as though your very existence becomes the spark for tension, and chosen one, that is precisely the reality of the situation. Your powerful presence confronts their darkness long before your words ever do. People housing that lower, negative influence often cannot tolerate the presence of someone who carries a clear divine assignment. Your spirit is a mirror that exposes precisely what they are trying so hard to hide. Without fully realizing it, they react defensively, irrationally, and aggressively. They often pick fights with you for no discernible reason because the spirit inside them is profoundly uncomfortable and unsettled. They intentionally misunderstand your words because clarity would completely dismantle the darkness they are hosting. They actively create tension where none existed because conflict weakens you, and weakening you is the enemy's foundational, first strategy. They accuse you of things you absolutely never did because accusation is the most ancient and familiar language of the lower, destructive realm. This is truly spiritual warfare expertly masquerading as normal emotional conflict. Your genuine kindness irritates them deeply. Your unwavering peace unsettles them. Your clear growth threatens them. Your radiant presence awakens their deepest shadows. You are not the problem. You are the exposure. Destructive forces cannot remain comfortable near someone who carries the active presence of God. They cannot survive for long in the purified atmosphere you bring. They cannot hide beneath the divine radiance you carry. Your light reveals everything they would much rather keep deeply concealed. And when darkness is exposed, it does not fight gently or subtly. It fights back instinctively and ferociously. Their words are weaponized. Their tone becomes a flurry of arrows. Their behavior becomes completely unpredictable. They strive to push you away physically and emotionally because proximity to you threatens their control. They attempt to discourage you because encouragement fuels your divine calling. They try to break you down emotionally because a severely wounded chosen one is significantly easier to manipulate than one who walks in confidence. This is the profound reason why you consistently attract conflict without even trying to. This is why you often become the target in rooms where you barely spoke. This is why you are viciously attacked while others are largely overlooked. Your anointing is powerfully magnetic. It draws the darkness out of its hiding place. When someone becomes hostile without any logical, justifiable cause, when their reactions seem entirely disproportionate to the actual situation, you must understand one crucial truth. It may not be them. It may be the spirit operating and influencing them. It is a spirit that deeply fears your God-given authority, a spirit that instantly recognizes the divine mark on your life, a spirit that senses your rising power long before you are even consciously aware of it. Your mere existence threatens everything that spirit is desperately trying to maintain. But here is the massive revelation most chosen ones completely miss. The stronger your anointing grows, the louder and more irrational the darkness reacts. The more God actively elevates you, the more uncomfortable the forces of darkness become. The closer you get to your final destiny, the more illogical and fierce the attacks become. You are not losing control of yourself. You are simply stepping into full spiritual awareness. If the attacks feel sudden, completely unpredictable, or entirely undeserved, it is because the enemy can no longer successfully hide within the people he once used silently. Your presence is now too strong. Your discernment is now too sharp. Your spirit is now too awake. Darkness cannot maintain a disguise around someone who has fully stepped into spiritual sight. But this sudden wave of conflict is not intended to break your spirit. It is intended to reveal the enemy's profound desperation. Because when darkness reacts this violently, it means that the light has already won the battle, and chosen one, what comes next will pivot this entire battle into a divine turning point. Because after the conflict has fully exposed the enemy's intentions, God Himself actively steps in, and the separation becomes an unavoidable, non-negotiable step. Are you ready for the pivotal moment where heaven disrupts everything you know to fiercely protect your destiny? Chosen one, there always comes a moment in every significant spiritual battle where God stops simply whispering gentle warnings and begins to actively and radically reshape your entire reality. When you choose to overlook the obvious discomfort, when you excuse the clear envy, when you continue to carry the draining conversations, and when you passively endure the sudden, unprovoked conflict, God intervenes in a way that often feels nothing like protection initially. At first, it feels like an immense loss, deep confusion, or the feeling that everything you held dear is completely slipping out of your grasp. But in heaven's perfect language, disruption is almost always deliverance cleverly dressed in the clothes of the unfamiliar. When someone carrying a destructive influence remains too close for too long, God will not negotiate the fate of your destiny. He will not risk your calling. He will not allow your ultimate purpose to be continually tangled in spiritual contamination. So, what is His solution? He immediately begins to create distance, not a simple emotional distance, but a divinely engineered, strategic separation. Suddenly, the bond between you starts to loosen without explanation. Conversations become inexplicably strained. The rhythm of your connection shifts dramatically. You no longer feel as spiritually connected, and you cannot logically articulate the reason why. What you are genuinely experiencing is God actively pulling you out of a spiritual trap you didn't even realize you were caught in. Then, the undeniable disruptions begin. Sudden, severe arguments that materialize out of nowhere. Misunderstandings that feel strangely intentional and uncharacteristic. Moments of communication breakdown that swiftly unravel the core connection. Doors closing between you and them at the very precise moment you believed things were finally stabilizing. It feels deeply inconvenient. It feels painful. It feels like everything is utterly breaking apart for no justifiable reason. But, chosen one, heaven never breaks things without a profound purpose. When God personally steps into a situation, He removes not just the person, but the destructive influence operating behind the person. He meticulously dismantles the access the enemy had to your sensitive emotions, your thought life, your core confidence, and your spiritual faith. He severs the spiritual ties that were actively draining your strength. And He executes this separation in a way that is utterly impossible for you to ignore. Sometimes, He creates new opportunities that take you geographically far away from them. Sometimes He exposes undeniable truths you were not even looking for. Sometimes He forcefully shuts doors you desperately wish to keep open. Sometimes he necessitates a final ending that feels too abrupt to make rational sense. But endings that are engineered by God are never random chance. They are always precisely timed rescue missions. What looks like utter chaos is actually divine clarity. What feels like profound heartbreak is actually heaven safeguarding your sensitive spirit. What appears to be a painful rejection is actually a strategic, divine redirection. And when the separation becomes painfully raw, when you cry, when you feel abandoned, when you simply cannot understand why everything shattered, God speaks silently but unmistakably to your spirit. If they had stayed any longer, they would have catastrophically damaged your destiny. He removes them because you couldn't find the strength to do it yourself. He exposes their true nature because you were unwilling to see it. He protects you fiercely, even when you are completely unaware that you are in danger. Chosen ones frequently confuse a divine disruption with their own personal failure or mistake. But the truth is far more supernatural. When a destructive influence is swiftly approaching your life through another person, God cuts the cord before the enemy can complete his full assignment. He permits relationships to collapse because your profound purpose simply cannot afford contamination. He allows friends to inexplicably drift away because their very presence was actively draining your anointing. He permits seemingly good connections to suddenly disappear because they were never good spiritually. And he allows painful endings to occur because pain is often the only language potent enough to finally make you walk away for good. And here is the powerful, deeper revelation. When God actively removes someone from your life, he simultaneously removes the spiritual weight they were causing you to carry. Pay close attention to what happens next. Your thoughts instantly clear. Your innate peace returns in a rush. Your energy levels rise dramatically. Your deep connection with God strengthens almost instantly. Your spirit feels lighter, freer, and far more stable than before. You start to finally comprehend that what you mistakenly called love was actually spiritual warfare. What you considered friendship was actually a carefully planned infiltration. What you defined as connection was truly a subtle spiritual attack disguised as closeness. And once God removes them, you grasp the core truth. You didn't lose anything significant. You successfully escaped something catastrophic. But chosen one, this is only the initial phase of what God is actively doing in your life. Because after the necessary removal comes a moment that is far more powerful, a moment where every lesson you've learned, every truth you've seen, and everything God has opened your eyes to converges into one final, overwhelming revelation. And this final revelation will not just fully expose the remaining darkness around you. It will powerfully activate the spiritual warrior residing inside you. Are you ready for the truth that will fundamentally transform your entire perception of reality? Chosen one, take a deep, centering breath because something profoundly sacred is actively occurring inside you at this very moment. This is not merely the end of a powerful message. This is the irrevocable beginning of a new level of spiritual consciousness. Your eyes are being opened in ways they were never opened before. The significant spiritual weight you carried, the confusing mental wrestling you endured, the strange, persistent discomfort you felt around certain people, none of it was random. Everything you intuitively sensed but struggled to articulate, everything your spirit frantically tried to warn you about, everything that felt subtly off, without logical explanation, it all finally makes perfect sense. God was never punishing you. God was never abandoning you. God was meticulously protecting you long before you even realized the full extent of the danger. Chosen one, heaven has just permanently activated a powerful force within you. A sharp, focused discernment that sees effortlessly beyond mere words, beyond polite smiles, and beyond deceptive appearances. You now walk with a refined spiritual instinct, a profound ability to detect danger before it gets close, to feel contamination before it touches you, and to sense deception before it even speaks. This heightened discernment is not a gift you had to request. It is a spiritual mantle placed upon the shoulders of those who carry destiny. From this moment forward, you will move through the world differently. You will instantly identify spiritual danger before it can wrap itself in good intentions. You will recognize contaminated energy the very second it enters your space. You will decisively walk away from people God never assigned to your story, without guilt, without hesitation, and without crippling fear. You will fiercely guard your divine purpose with wisdom, spiritual authority, and holy confidence. No more falling for convincing masks. No more confusing manipulation with genuine love. No more granting access to those who are silently working against your spiritual progress. No more walking blindly into obvious spiritual traps. Your spirit will speak loudly and clearly before any real harm arrives. And this time you will trust it completely. Chosen one, this powerful awakening marks the absolute end of spiritual naivety and the monumental beginning of spiritual mastery. You are no longer someone who merely survives life's battles. You are someone who accurately anticipates them, someone who recognizes the enemy's strategies before the enemy even recognizes the full measure of your strength. You now walk with the awareness of heaven and the unshakable authority of a true warrior. And now, to permanently seal this life-changing revelation in the spiritual realm, to deeply anchor it into the promise of your destiny, declare it out loud and type it boldly in the comments below as a powerful, prophetic act of alignment and declaration. State this with every fiber of your being: God, open my spiritual eyes and fiercely protect my path. When you declare this with conviction, you are not just uttering words. You are stepping into a new, fortified spiritual identity. You are announcing to heaven that you are ready for the next level. You are signaling to the darkness that you are no longer deceivable. You are informing your glorious future that you are fully prepared to walk into it with unparalleled clarity, unshakable strength, and supernatural protection. Chosen one, your spiritual discernment has just ascended to a new height. Walk with unwavering confidence because now you see clearly. Walk with perfect clarity because now you know the truth. Walk with absolute divine protection because heaven is actively going before you. And never, ever forget this truth: those who carry the light are never outnumbered.